Brilliant. Alrighty, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Catherine, nice to meet you all. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to learn more from our SMEs across Adobe and Omnicom on how to improve and scale your content journey. So first, I'll talk through a bit of housekeeping. So there's not a lot really, so it won't be too much. Just that this will be recorded, so you'll receive a copy of this webinar. There will be a Q&A section at the end of this webinar, so there is a chat function for you to use, so please do use that. And then to get us going, I will just talk you through our agenda for today. So first off, after the agenda, you will be introduced to our three fantastic speakers, which is Gregor, Bea, and Josh. We'll then talk you through the Adobe innovations announced at the AWS Summit that will supercharge your content supply chain. We'll then talk about the Adobe Omnicom partnership and our experience and approach on how to make content supply chain projects a success before moving on to Omnicom's supply chain content project before finishing off with a Q&A. So let's move on and meet your speakers. I'm going to pass over to Gregor.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are. I'm on the black screen. You find me there. My camera has just waved goodbye, so we are a little in a technical hiccup, and really sorry for that. But as you can see, so I'm the guy on the left side of the slide. But to introduce ourselves, I would certainly start with Bea. So if you can introduce yourself, Bea, that would be nice.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad to be here. My name is Bea Krug, and I'm a senior solution consultant at Adobe. I work at our digital experience business, so that's my part. As you might know, we have different subsidiaries, but I work for the digital experience part of our business. I've been with Adobe since 2022, so quite a while by now, and I'm very happy to tell you a little bit more about content supply chain today. I think I'll hand it over to Josh then.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Nicholson, a managing director in Credera in the UK. I got a background in delivering lots of Adobe products, but lots of other products across large-scale technology deployments for multiple global companies. I'm really excited today to be sharing with you around our Omnicom rollout of Adobe Content Supply Chain. So I'll be speaking last, so they've left the best to last, obviously. That's not quite true. We're going to hand over to Bea, I think, who's going to be doing the first bit.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And the guy from the off, that's me, Gregor. So we have two people from the UK, which is Catherine and Josh, and Bea and myself. We are speaking from Germany, and then you get a bit of a scope and also handing over to why are we doing this. So this is an informal session for you that comes on the back of, as Catherine says, of the Global Summit of Adobe, which has been in Las Vegas 2 months and a bit ago. And with that phenomenal event, always a lot of innovations come along. And we wanted to share that innovations with you. So this year, there is no London Summit, as some of you may have realized. So we rather do this type of sessions to really inform clients and prospects in the most direct manner. And we want to concentrate on not on all innovations of Adobe, because that's a lot, but really focus on what we feel is the most exciting and the most, let's say, that has the best fit between Adobe and Omnicom. And that is around content supply chain and what it means for your business and why we have that tight cooperation. And we have a split agenda, as if you've seen, and Bea will take us through all the innovations that have been recently launched. And I'm changing to Bea, and that should work easily with one click, and you're on.
All right, you should be able to see my screen. It hasn't changed for me yet, but I think we're good. Okay,
we
cool.
See this, Bea, just to let you know, Bea, we see your lovely background, a tree and a skyscraper.
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.
Okay,
that's what you're supposed to see.
Super.
We're starting with a little bit of Zen. It's for me, it's a little bit late in the evening, so we'll start with a little bit of Zen here. No, just kidding. So let's start and let's see if this works.
Content is fueling the digital economy. Every digital experience begins with a piece of content, whether that's an image, video, animation, document, or 3D rendering. However, sometimes the process of producing, delivering, and activating content in an efficient and cost-effective way can be a challenge. This is where Adobe's content supply chain comes in.
All right, so as this video, hopefully you heard the sound, tells you we want to talk about content supply chain and how you can supercharge it. And I will start with a little recap of all the great things that have been announced at Adobe Summit for that. So first of all, mandatory, but I have to let you know that whatever I'm showing, I will also make forward-looking statements. So not all of this is in product yet. It is a vision of where products are moving. It's something that will be in product at a later point in time. Some of it is very close. Some might take some more time, but it's about roadmap items as well. So just take this into account. And with that out of our way, we can actually move into the content now while you're here. So obviously the landscape of creativity and our content supply chain has changed dramatically over the years in general, but it has never progressed further or faster than in the last year. And we all know there are certain challenges that come with this. Two of the biggest challenges that are facing marketers at a grander scale and the complexity that kind of go in the mix here. So there's never been more pressure to increase velocity or reduce costs and increase the scale of content from all the way up. I'm sure you're very aware of this. There's increased demand for more assets to fuel personalization and just to make sure that you have the right content for the right people at the right time. So with generative AI, actually there are new tools and new technology that can help you to speed up this content process and to also help you be better in that customer engagement. So if you jump on board with these new technologies, if you adopt these new technologies, they will enable you to move faster. They will help you to save those costs and to scale up your content faster than ever before. What is this content supply chain that I am talking about? Some of you might be aware, some of you might not, so let me kind of wrap it up really fast. There are 5 major building blocks when we talk about content supply chain. We have workflow and planning, always important to have a plan. Delivery and activation, you always want to talk to your customer, you want to engage with your customer, so you want to take your content to your customer. Reporting and insights, you want to know what's going on. Are the campaigns that you're running working? Are the assets that you're using working? You need to create and produce all this content, right? And then you have tons of assets that you have to manage somehow. And as you can see across all those 5 building blocks and pillars, there's different Adobe solutions that can help you with all of these stages. With investing in a seamless content supply chain, you can address the challenges that I mentioned before, right? The ask for velocity, for cost savings, and also for more personalization. We all know there's a battle for customer attention. There's so much content going to people all the time. There's so much information, so it's very hard to stay top of mind in your customers' minds. If you want to differentiate yourself, a working seamless content supply chain can really help you, give you that edge, because it helps you to span these multiple channels and markets to personalize content faster than ever before. So how do you do that? Well, hopefully with all the cutting edge technology, and I will show you what kind of innovations we have announced that we want to help you increase, better your content supply chain with. I will start with our DME announcements, so digital media announcements. This is more for the creatives in our midst. There's tons of good news around our Firefly services. One of them is that you can now use Firefly and Creative APIs to scale variations across channels, segments, and geographics. You can automate creative and marketing workflows and increase your time to market. With custom Firefly models, you can generate content that is tailored specifically to your brand, to your products, to your styles, to make sure that content that is created with these services is relevant to your brand. Creative Cloud for Enterprise v4 has Firefly already built into that creative workflow, so you can faster create and ideate on high impact content. You can scale your content easier than ever before with style kits and object composites that help you to stay in brand guidelines. And last but not least, with Express for Enterprise, everyone can be a creative, but you can also make sure that everyone is creative within the set of rules and limitations. So you can use templates and style controls to make sure everything that is created really stays within brand. And now let's dive a little bit deeper into the DX announcements, so the digital experience announcements that have been raised at Summit. So first of all is our Adobe GenStudio, which is our first GenAI first application, and I will show it to you in a second. Then we have tons of good news around Experience Manager that will get even better with more integrations also into the ecosystem. You can keep everyone in the loop with Workfront Planning, which is the centralized solution for planning, creating campaigns, and delivering briefs. And you can leverage content analytics to measure your creative assets across any channels. These are like the headlines, and now I want to dig deeper into each of these digital experience announcements. So let's start with GenStudio. That is one of the applications that will really help you solve challenges and optimize your content supply chain. It is coming soon, a generative AI first product that lets marketing teams quickly plan, create, manage, activate across apps and publishers, measure on-brand content. So it works independently or also in conjunction with other supply chain products that you might already have in use. So it's a very intuitive product that collects the top tools marketers need to deliver on cross-channel campaigns. It is built on GenAI. It empowers any team members to quickly find and generate assets, create variations, optimize experience based on real-time content performance insights. So it's built for small businesses to large enterprises, so everyone can really use it. And it's designed to be used by marketers or agencies. With GenStudio, it's never been easier to deliver high-value experiences to your customers. And what that looks like, see it for yourself.
Adobe GenStudio is an all-new generative AI-first application that unites and accelerates the content supply chain. In GenStudio, you'll find content, campaigns, insights, all the information a marketer needs to easily create and scale on-brand, enterprise-ready content or variations in seconds. Let's refresh an Adobe Photoshop campaign. We're taken directly to the campaign, where we can see critical information like description, customer personas, channels, assets, and goals. All relevant campaign elements are tied together for easy access to our portfolio of products and assets. We can see everything brand related, including image, channel, and copy-specific guidelines. Next, we'll have a look at our approved campaign assets. Let's start creating new display ads, social, web, and email for our refresh campaign. We'll start with Facebook ads. Clicking on the task takes us straight to the create experience. In one click, we can see the brand-approved assets filtered for the specific campaign. Let's create 4 variations for testing. Simply enter your prompt and click Generate. We have an Adobe Firefly custom model trained on the Photoshop brand. Once we select the model and style kit, our other campaign parameters are included to ensure content is on brand. Click Generate. The colors and style are spot on with these new results. Now it's time to create our full Facebook ads. With the click of a button, we have 4 complete Facebook ads featuring the selected images and videos, along with AI-generated copy options. It looks like all ads pass the brand check and are ready to send for review and approval. The approved ads and connected assets are automatically saved in GenStudio and can easily be exported for activation. Once the ads are live, we can see how they're performing directly in GenStudio. On the Insights page, find where this asset was used and what attributes to consider for future content. Now you're ready to share this image across channels with all the important details like brand, persona, and product, giving you control across platforms. Adobe GenStudio pulls together everything you need to create and scale on-brand content from multiple channels, all in a single product.
So as you can see, GenStudio is actually helping you deliver on all the pillars of this content supply chain, right? From content creation to deliveries to measurement. You can see that all is in this one application. It's currently still in a closed beta, but it is coming sometime later, hopefully this year. So let's dig deeper into some of the other innovations that have been announced at Summit, and let's look into Adobe Experience Manager Assets and Sites. There have a couple of new announcements around that. So one was asset distribution that helps you to democratize assets across the organization so that everyone can access, share, and remix content as a composable service in the DEM. It's also easy to generate variations now. So instantly create audience-specific brand-aware content variations for personalization at scale, again, with Gen AI. You see that this is a topic that will follow you through this whole presentation. And then we also have a new integration that will help you to boost your productivity and collaboration with a native AEM Sites and Workfront integration. So Workfront, the planning tool, and the tool that I will go to next, because yes, planning doesn't sound fun, but it's very important. So for Adobe Workfront, we also have two bigger announcements. One is our Workfront's planning module that will give you the foundational elements for building a marketing system of record. So such as campaigns, audiences, assets, or any other object important to your marketing lifecycle. It will also give you a central solution that will help you to plan campaigns, create and deliver briefs, and orchestrate your work. So once you centralize your planning efforts, that also unlocks the ability to create custom visualizations. So dynamic briefs or marketing campaign calendar based on that unique needs of your organization, of your teams, of your leaders, and it will allow you to derive meaningful insights from your data to make strategic decisions. If you want to build a marketing system of record successfully, customers also need to create a foundation, including data, technology, processes, so all has to be in that one place. And this involves the strategy, assets, and workflows that define the way your organization works, and the costs that are associated with this, and also the structure of its operations. So Workfront Planning will give you the ability to define your own records, laying the foundation for that successful marketing system of records. And then we also have unified review and approval, which will be a frictionless workflow that harmonizes the review and approval experience between Workfront and Frame.io. So you see, we're also always investing in integrating our solutions even further to make that experience really seamless across all different tools. And last but not least, content analytics in customer journey analytics, which is very dear and near to my heart. It can feel sometimes like you're still guessing what kind of content really does connect with your customers. And using A/B testing, of course, that can give you some idea, but sometimes it's very hard to understand the specific attributes of an image or of an experience of a piece of content that really connects with your customers. So with content analytics, you can actually help you, you can actually better understand the experiences or the content and all the different attributes in this piece of content and how they actually correlate with your customer. So marketers can now correlate attributes of content with customer interactions and positive business outcomes to gain insights. So you will better know now why a specific piece of content actually resonated with your audience. And these insights can really help you in effectively optimize and personalize your content at a bigger scale. So coming back to the beginning, I showed you a couple of announcements across all these different pillars of the content supply chain. Of course, it can feel overwhelming sometimes. It is a process. A content supply chain is something that develops over time, and it also integrates over time, but there's no time like today to get started with it. And I want to stop my part of this presentation with a little nudge if one or couple of the topics resonated with you, if you want to dig deeper into some of the insights that have been shared on other summit sessions maybe as well, there's a lot you can watch online. So feel free to scan that QR code. I think you will also get the recording later. So if you don't have your phone ready, that's good. You can still do it later. And this will lead you to the site with a lot of great content, great summit sessions that you can watch on demand. For example, there's also a really good strategy keynote which is called Maximize Creativity and Scale Content. So right across the line of this webcast as well. And it has also speakers from Omnicom and Credera. So you might want to check that one out. And also now I want to hand over to Josh. Before I do that, I just want to say, why am I here from Adobe maybe? So Omnicom and Adobe, we do have a long-standing relationship. And Credera is Omnicom's Center of Excellence for the Adobe partnership, and one of the very few selected agencies in the world to actually hold the Adobe Global Platinum Solution Partner status. That's quite a mouthful. The company has achieved specializations across all our Adobe solutions, which is a high level of proven Adobe expertise, and that empowers Credera clients with tailored, scalable solutions that also address the unique requirements of your respective organizations. We know that everyone at Omnicom shares our eagerness to be a leader in generative AI and to reinvent the ways that we actually work with content and deliver that content. So you are not only reimagining your own content supply chain with Adobe, but you also help your customers to do the same. And to tell you more about this and how you actually do this, I will hand over to Josh now, quite literally.
Can you give it to me there?
Yes, I'm doing that just now. Here you go. And you should be good to go.
The smoothest transition ever. I will now hand it to Gregor. Here we go.
All right, so I will share the screen in a sec. And just a thumbs up if you can see it.
We can see you.
Yep.
Excellent. So thanks a lot, Bea. I think you stole like 30% of my talking, which is good. So we give everyone a bit of an earlier evening. But yeah, so I think it perfectly leads into why we do this presentation together, which is what I want to explain you a bit on the further slides. So what Bea just described, a little more context on it. We do feel very near to each other with the topic we just discussed, or that Bea has introduced. And there's a lot of innovation, especially in the content production through AI and through the nice tools like Firefly that you all have seen now. So what Omnicom has to do with Adobe, and that is not well known to many of you, but should be, is that we are really one of the well-qualified partners around Adobe products, but we deliver also an end-to-end service around how to really make the best use of it. So through Credera, we have that strategy and technology consulting piece where everything starts, and Josh will definitely tell a bit more about why it is important and how important it is. Then, I mean, the typical plumbing, so the implementation of tools is always super important to do it right, to do it in a way that serves the use cases and that generates ROI. Custom development is always very specific to a client. Come to that in a bit. And then I think at the core of it, it's really how to run such a content supply chain afterwards. And that's also where the heartbeat of Omnicom is. It's really the ongoing marketing campaigns and marketing operations that we are doing, omni-channel, measuring the results, and also optimize everything. So our delivery model is really spanning across multiple agencies. And this is why we think it's super important. So we're not, to use a term that we hear quite often, to not implement something and throw a hand grenade over the fence and see how it explodes, but really to take ownership of everything that happens from the start to the execution. So why we are also let's say, really at the heart of it is because we are, as Bea also said, 4 companies globally certified as cotton supply chain ready. So this is a very new tool and discipline, and we've been pioneering that with Omnicom because of the importance of it to our business. And also, on top of it, we are the first and only platinum partner that's specialized really across the complete digital experience platform suite. So as you can see, so there's only one partner, which is Credera of Omnicom, that has specializations on all DX solutions. So enough said about us. Omnicom also, Adobe also thinks it's important that we collaborate. Anil Chakravarti, who is, let's say, the mastermind of all the DX suite, has written down this nice statement. So it's a lot of excitement around in the market, working together to transform business towards that content supply chain idea. Talking about content supply chain and going a bit into our point of view, we are slightly adding 2 things to the technology that was presented by Bea. So we should and can never forget how the importance of people and process, and we think that it's equally important than technology, because what you have seen, so the sheer amount of content, which is so the way it is produced, the quantity that is produced, you cannot go along in the future, you cannot win, and you cannot work efficient if you stick to the old rules like sending emails and filling Excel templates. So there has to be a change in the way we treat content, and this is why we absolutely need that combination of tools neatly and weave it together into a content supply chain. We have to train the people, we have to have a vision, and we have to have a process that really supports it well. We have that also presented in a nice video, but I think we can skip it. Bea has done a good job with Adobe in showing everything. I would say everything has been told, but not by everyone. So I would, can you hear that sound, or I don't think you can, or?
No, we can't hear the sound, Gregor.
Okay, so no, it's not a problem. So we submit that with a presentation afterwards, and want you to also have a look on that one. So it's the point of view that we have. But I think it's more important to really look on references that we have in setting up content supply chains. And we have a fine number of well-known global brands like Apple, Mars, Peloton, and AT&T, and also others, where we have implemented the content supply chain. And on the right-hand side here, you can see that, so in the schemas that are added, so it's always done in a slightly different manner, in a slightly different way. So the content supply chain is not a one single implementation, but it's always taking into account what MarTech is currently available in your organization, the processes that are in place already, and how they have to be transformed. And that is what we learned with our clients, and then adapted it for ourselves, because we realized, as Omnicom with 700 agencies, we need to be more efficient to be ready for the future. And that has finally led to a massive global project, which Josh will tell now more about it, what we learned from it, and how we handle that.
Thanks, Gregor. So I think this is probably the thing we're most excited about. We talked about some lovely brand names in the slide before that, but we're also implementing it for ourselves. So Omnicom is one of the world's largest producers of content. We have 700 agencies in 100 different countries. And as you can imagine, that is a very large content supply chain that we have. I believe it is the largest scale content supply chain project ongoing at the moment. It's a 3-year global transformation, and we're in year 1. So we're just starting, well, we're about halfway through, or towards the end of year 1. So we're kind of a third of the way through, I suppose. As you can imagine, the challenge here is probably not dissimilar to any large global organization, in that having a unified cross-agency platform and process is always a challenge. What we want to aim for is one Omnicom, one technology stack with one process. As I'm sure you can imagine, many of you have probably tried to achieve this as well. It's not very easy, but we're delighted to be working with Adobe's fantastic tool suites to achieve that. What we're aiming for is increased content productivity, faster time to market, and operational efficiencies, and being able to improve collaboration as well. So probably all the same things that you're aiming for in your projects and everyone is aiming for, and what Adobe is trying to do with their tool suite. So if you skip to the next slide, Gregor, I wanted to highlight a few of the things we've learned along this journey. So the first one is that change management is absolutely critical. Everyone knows you don't just take a technology stack and stick it in and then see what happens. Right? You have to get people to adopt it, you have to get people to use it, and you have to get people to enjoy using it and see the value from it. So aligning on a North Star is absolutely critical. This is everyone in the organization being behind why we are doing this piece of work. Adobe licenses aren't cheap, so getting the value out of those is absolutely critical. Understanding what the business case is that says, well, if we spend this much on these licenses and put this tool in and change all of our processes in this way, we expect to get back, X million in savings or increased profitability. So that's absolutely critical, and it helps drive everything throughout an organization. Every time you go to speak to someone at any level in the organization and they understand why we're trying to do this, it just makes the conversation a lot easier. And that does mean at all levels as well. So both the exec being brought in and at the working level being brought in. We also learned that we need to align on processes early. Having lots of different processes for roughly doing the same thing is not efficient. So getting an agreement on what those are, breaking things up into sort of domains of expertise. So we might have a PR agency, a content agency, creative agencies. Understanding that we can have a generic process across those was absolutely key, and trying to align on that as early as possible. The second one is around technical and regulatory hurdles. As everyone knows, when rolling out IT within companies, getting the internal IT teams on board early is absolutely key, so that you don't end up with security issues down the line, and all the internal approvals are there, and we don't all try to start the project, but find we aren't allowed to because we haven't gone through a security piece that we need to. Similarly, there are a lot of regulations in different countries in the world. When you're trying to roll this out to 100+ countries, there are lots of regulations to take into consideration. That we also do, as Omnicom, quite a lot of work in the healthcare and pharmaceutical sector and other heavily regulated industries, where approving assets to go out is got a much stricter regulatory compliance angle to it as well. You can't just put anything out. It has to go through lots and lots of scrutiny. So we needed to understand how to build those critical integrations into those processes. We use tools for that in various different countries, so building both the technical integrations, but also understanding and building in the processes for those approvals is key. Obviously, we're trying to reduce the time to market for a lot of these assets, so having it as much automated as possible via Adobe Workfront kind of kicks off those regulatory approvals is the best we can do. And then our partnership with Adobe has been incredibly helpful here. We're rolling out stuff that's quite new. It's quite new to Adobe. It's quite new to our company, and working in partnership with them has been fantastically valuable. We run into things where out of the box works perfectly well, and that's all great. And then we run into other things where we think that could be done a little bit better. And so being able to work with Adobe on that is key. If you move to the next slide then, Gregor, what we've done with all this information is turn it into an Omnicom approach for how we roll out content supply chain. And we'd suggest starting with an assessment. So either a content supply chain assessment or potentially a wider MarTech assessment for a company. So looking at what are you trying to achieve, as I spoke about before, and why do you want to deploy this technology? But then also looking at what other technology you have in your estate. No company is greenfield. Everyone has legacy platforms and estates in place, and they have bits of that they may want to keep, and bits of it that they may want to move to Adobe, and bits of it they may not, or at different times. So being able to do that kind of technical stack assessment, I think, is really critical. Looking at the people and the processes is key, and understanding how much change is there going to be. So this technology only really works if people change and adopt and change the way they work. So how hard is that going to be within your organization? And understanding that before you go into it. We then come out of that with some recommendations and then a business case. I've seen in my experience a lot of companies get the business case wrong when they forget about some of those things. So if they forget that it's going to cost a lot to make people change and to do the process design, and they only cost in the license cost into the technology change, then you find out it becomes far more expensive than you thought it was going to be. So just understanding that and building a really robust business case at the beginning is really, really critical. And then we kind of start with, right, well, now we've decided we're going to go for this is the right thing to do. We move into what is fairly normal: design, implement, operate, optimize stage. One of the key things I wanted to call out here, though, is that we're aiming to get things done quite quickly. So a live proof of concept up and running within 4 to 6 weeks. So aiming to build something, get it working for one use case, for one market, for one country, that kind of thing, as fast as we can. This helps with the business case and the ROI, so you can start to see real financial gains dropping in throughout the life cycle of this project. So rather than paying for everything up front and then waiting till the end to get the value, we aim to drive that value as fast as possible, and that's what we've done in our own rollout internally as well. The other point there, well, I've got those 3 bars around consulting and change, product development and campaign management, is that we don't just look at product development, so the technical side of it. We look at change and how people need to adapt to that, but we also look at the campaigns that people are running and which ones we could target with this new technology and how much more efficient we could make them. So this is linked in with your marketing efforts, so that as we roll things out, we can show that, well, the last time we did this campaign, it took X amount of time, and the time we've done it now, it took Y. So we can measure success. We can say it was 40% faster to do this campaign this time, or it took 40% less resource. And that's really what we're aiming for. Everyone aligned behind the North Star, and really having those key performance indicators that drive every decision we make. And then we move into implementation, etc., rollout. We would normally recommend you start small and build up, and then roll out markets quite quickly towards the end. So in my experience, once you get into quite a stabilized and you've done sort of half of the company, the other half can go very, very fast, and you could end up rolling out markets or whatever markets or countries in your organization on a weekly basis if you're going really, really quickly, whereas at the beginning you might want to start and go a bit slower. And then obviously operate and optimize are key as well. So how are you going to handle operations once this tool is live? And then how do you continue to optimize? So optimize isn't really a project thing so much as a ongoing, move into an ongoing business as usual type rotation. Adobe are continuing to develop their product sets just as you roll them out. So learning how to use them and continue to update processes and things is absolutely key as well. Good. And then finally, I think our summary, Gregor, if you sit to the next slide, is really just don't go it alone. There's lots of people around to help out. Don't forget how important change management is. I can't count the number of technology rollouts I've seen that have forgotten that point and then run into trouble and try to retrofit it. So think about that to start with. Remember, we are one of the 4 global partners that have the Ready for Content Supply Chain badge. And I would always recommend, getting started with an assessment. So just understanding why you're doing something, what you think the business value is, and just being really, really picky on the numbers. You know, what value do we really think we're going to get from this, and how much is it going to cost? Because the last thing you want to do is start something, start rolling out, and then realize that it costs more than the benefit. And that can happen if you don't think about change and what you want to do something at the beginning. All right, I think that was it. We probably have some time for Q&A. I don't know whether any have been raised, Catherine, during the presentation at all.
Can't see any. That's all right. I was saying I can't see any at the moment. So if anyone wants to post them in. In the meantime, Josh, I wonder if there's any questions you've been asked during this process that you think is relevant.
I guess one that people ask me is, I guess, sort of how is this different from before? There's always been technologies and tools that say they can fix things over the last 10, 15 years, right? You know, new technology comes out, and what's different now, and how is this really going to help? And I think two of them that come to mind. Gen AI is always a good answer to that question. I'm not sure no one will be surprised by that, but that is a game changer. And having companies like Adobe build that into their tool sets mean that you don't have to as a company. We don't have to. You know, we let the experts who are great at building tech build that in. And that comes with security and controls as well, right? So, you know, Adobe learn from all the organizations they work with and how to build this tech safely. So I think that's number one. And the second, I think, is just having it slightly more integrated. So having Workfront, I think, in the middle of this really brings power. You know, previously some of the tool sets have been a little bit disparate, taking things out of there, putting them into there, uploading them into the different place, and having kind of Workfront orchestrate all of that at the heart of it, where briefs come in, content is done, content is uploaded, it's all seen there. I think in Bea's demo you saw some of it. I saw a task there clearly within GenStudio that's come from Workfront. You know, just having it all in one place, I think, is a bit of a game changer as well. Just makes it a lot easier to use. Don't know whether Bea or Gregor, you have any other thoughts on any of that?
I completely agree with Workfront. We do see a lot of interest also in that area. And as I mentioned, it feels like people don't like to think about planning, but it's such a vital part of everything. Like if that doesn't work, all the rest of it will just go into chaos. So Workfront can really help you to kind of be that connection point for everyone in your organization to make sure everyone is at that same kind of level of knowledge as well, and everyone knows what to do and when. So it's such a powerful tool. I completely agree.
We've got the questions coming in now. Now we've asked for them, they're coming in. So we had one, how does the brand safety check work, and how are brand guidelines implemented?
Do you want to take that, Bea?
It's probably a question around what I showed about the DME announcements. So that's how I interpret it, at least. So actually, if you train your custom model, I think it's probably aimed at that direction. So correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll talk a little bit about custom model here for a bit. If we say custom model, this means that we actually will train we will use training data with your brand language and with your imagery to make sure that this is all, like, the input will be the output kind of. So we will use your all of your brand asset as training material to build your custom model that then can actually leverage all this rich information that it has collected from all your input and put out new assets that is trained on your own data. So that is the guideline. But then there's also, I mean, there's in different tools, different ways to do it. So for example, if we talk about Express, you will actually, you can work with templates and brand guidelines that will help everyone to understand, like, okay, this is the colors that we're using. That's the way the logo is supposed to look like. This is a template I can use to just pop in my own content. So there's a couple of different ways how you would approach that, depending on what product you're looking at and what kind of guidelines you're looking at and restrictions. I hope that kind of covers it.
Thank you. Yep, we had another one. So And a similar, also, how do analytics work for social assets? Are platforms and channels connected with Adobe?
Would that be a question probably around the GenStudio, what it showed? Or was that a question about content analytics? I'm not quite sure. General content analytics would work on really leveraging AI to understand what part of your contents are being looked at, are being used, and also like a meta-analysis of the content in itself, right? So how is that content actually made up? What are the parts of that content? What are the colors? What is the language? What is kind of the mood of the picture? These kind of information, and that would be used then for building that analytics part of content. That's the last feature I think I showed in my presentation. When we look at social content, that is data that has to be collected, obviously, and played back into the platform, and then we can leverage it and use it to better understand how is your content being used, what experiences are being used, this kind of thing. Really depends also on how you deliver it, where you deliver it.
And then I think we had a question that was, would you mind going back to the contact slide? Which is probably a good sign.
Probably this one.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think that's all the questions we have so far. So was there any final wrap-up thoughts we wanted to offer before wrapping up?
Maybe just my 2 cents to wrap up my part of it. So for us, content supply chain is really something that we see a lot of interest in from our customers. Something we talk about with our customers a lot, because it's just such a vital part of everything that is being done in marketing, in communication. Like content is everywhere nowadays. It's such a speed. You have such masses of content, and everyone kind of is struggling. How can we actually make use of it? How can we organize it? How can we plan it? How can we deliver it? How can we personalize? So there's so many facets of that part. And I think it's a great time to actually take a step back and, like Josh said, like think about it. What do you really want to achieve? How can we plan for it? What do we need for it? And let's go for it. And I think you need a great partner that can help you deliver on this, because it's very overwhelming maybe to go to do it for yourself for the first time. But if you have partners like Credera, who are doing this a lot and also like work closely with us, then it's a part where you can really leverage new technologies and make everything better that you're doing right now.
Yeah, I think my closing thought would just sort of echo a very similar thing, but perhaps from a more of a working out how to use the tools part. You know, these tools are fantastically powerful, and they're evolving very quickly. You know, AI is evolving very quickly. So by the time you start implementing something now, you know, in a year's time, Adobe will release the next thing anyway, and there'll be 10 more things on the market. So just being able to learn how to use that within your organization, I think, is key. We help a lot of companies just navigate the complexity of that. You know, Adobe is a great tool set. There are hundreds of thousands of other vendors on the MarTech architecture stack, and it grows every year rather than shrinking. And just understanding like which ones and how do you use them, and why is Adobe fantastic, and how should you use it, I think is one of the things we help our customers most with.
We did have a final question as you were speaking come in. So we just had a question: project management for larger engagements would connect to but not be executed from within the content supply chain. Correct? Question mark?
Say that again. Project. Say again. Sorry.
Project management for larger engagements be connected to but not executed from within the content supply chain?
I think there might be a question about Workfront, and you know, it manages projects. It's a project management tool at its heart, right? I think organizations will always have other processes around that. If you're running a truly large program at scale, and it'll have lots of different bits of projects in it, I would expect you would run most of that through Workfront in the content supply chain, but you possibly also may have other tools that sit over the top of that at an organizational level to manage, organizational level risk and programs and things like that. I'm not sure if that's quite the answer or where the question was going, but hopefully that helped.
You got a thanks, so hopefully I think that you did a good job there, Josh. Brilliant. Gregor, did you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No final or famous last words from my end. I think this was quite delightful. Thanks everyone. Thanks Bea, Catherine, Josh. Thanks everyone joining. Seeing that people didn't drop much during the 50 minutes during that time of day. It's really something that I'm very, very proud of. Again, apologies for the black screen. But yeah, I think we really told you the story we wanted to tell you today. So don't go it alone. It's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of innovations that will really fundamentally change out the way of working. And yeah, we're here to partner. Just call us. You saw our references. You saw our also our contacts, and we would be super glad to go into conversations with you around content supply chain. So thanks everyone for joining. And yeah. Catherine, I think we can close then, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks everyone.
For your time.
Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.